things. So we are going to transition into some Mexico testimonies, and then I'm just going to end off not preaching. I don't think I actually have to today because these youth have come prepared. I know you're going to be blessed. I'm going to end just with a quick video of thanks from a team that we support down in Mexico, and you're going to get to hear their story. But first, what we're going to do, the guy that normally makes our video for us, and we've always gotten it every year for Youth Sunday, was not able to complete it. So one of Mike's guys who we went with in the Penticton Vineyard, he stayed up late and put a hodgepodge of all his videos together. And so we're going to get something. And I looked at it, and he did a great job for doing it last minute. So if you're on live stream, we're going to have to mute you just because of we don't want to get dinged because of music. Even though, telling everyone, we have a license to stream music, so we are legal. For some reason, YouTube does not understand that, and they will close down our account. So we're going to have to mute you on the video. So you can watch, you just can't hear. Put on some background music. But here's the video, and then I'm going to turn it over to Audrey, and Audrey's going to just kick it off for us after the video is done. And then after this video, if you can switch it over to my laptop, because I'm going to have pictures playing in the background. Thank you so much, Blake. They've created a youth center. A bunch of the churches that have come through, they've created areas for kids. Some of those nicer buildings have been areas that teams have come in and actually built those for the youth. They have a great youth program now. When I first started serving with that ministry, it was only a children's program, and now the youth can graduate into a youth program, and you can sponsor them. Hearing some of their stories is absolutely humbling, where these youth are coming from. But I'm going to turn it over to Audrey. I'm going to have this running on a loop in the back, and then we're just going to kind of let the youth share what really impacted them.
Good morning. I didn't expect seeing that video and getting to see some of our friends that we met there, how emotional that would be, but I was like, oh, I miss them. First off, I just want to thank you guys for your financial support, your prayer support, and your encouragement. I'm continually floored by how generous you guys are with us. When we were thinking about going back, I think last year we ended the trip. We were in the San Diego airport for about 35 years. And even then, we were talking about, okay, next year, this is what we're going to do. We were all ready to go back before we ever got home. One thing this year I was super excited about reconnecting with the Canadian group. They had about 10 more people, but I kept forgetting that all of them hadn't been there with us last year. Like, it was just an immediate meshing of two groups that became one to serve. One of the highlights for me, teenagers, this is not the highlight, but teenagers often get a bad rap. When I tell people that I teach middle school, I get this look of like, ew, like, why would you do that? Or, golly. And my thought is always like, you don't know what you're missing out on. Like, all of these kiddos are incredible. The teenagers that we got to work with, that went with us, and also the Canadian group, were a group of yes people. We would finish a meal, no one was scheduled for cleanup, and it would just be like, hey, we need some people to do dishes, and there was always an abundance of people to pick up the slack. One day we went up to the high school to do some work, and Mike, who was one of our fearless leaders, if there's nothing on the docket, he will find something. And so he looked around and said, well, there are some weeds, let's start pulling them. We didn't have gloves, we didn't have tools, we just had our hands. And so we get on the ground and we start pulling weeds, and there was a little bit of grumbling in my heart because I was like, ew, like, I'm touching this with my bare hand, like, not my favorite thing. And there was a little kiddo there from Canada named Ari. And Ari said, this looks like a prison. And I said, well, Ari, remember, this is their high school. Like, this is what their school looks like every day. And so he was quiet for just a moment, and then he said, hey, guys, let's play the thankful game. And he said, let's just start telling each other what we're thankful for. We'll do it in alphabetical order. And that really spoke to my heart, because I thought, here's a kiddo who, is sitting on the ground or pulling out weeds. It's kind of hot. And by the end of that weed pulling out, I think Sydney found a glove. So she had a glove, so she got to do some of the dirty work. But we were singing country music and just having the time of our lives, like just doing work. That in the grand scheme of things, we pulled a few weeds, but I think it really spoke to my heart, just being thankful for what we have, and also just seeing how these kids put their faith into action. One thing that I love about this ministry with Casa de Luz is it doesn't feel like it's an us versus them. It's not we come down as the Americans and we're rescuing, the Mexicans. It is that they already have a ministry and we get to partner with them and work alongside them and see all that the Lord's doing there. There were several things. I won't go into them all, but we worked from morning to night. We did like morning VBS and afternoon VBS at Casa de Luz. We had a big youth party that you saw at the big soccer ball and all those things. We went to the beach. We did construction projects. Like, I got to learn to stucco a wall, and that was pretty incredible, unless you're with Shane Barker. If you saw the video, there were two ladders, and there was this metal board, and we were, like, up on steps. And so I was like, okay, get over your fear of heights and just climb up. And so I was standing beside Shane, and I said, gosh, I'm just a little bit nervous. So he made sure to bounce and tell me, like, no, it's sturdy. And I was like, thanks so much, Shane. Like, scare me to death. So one big thing that I feel like I relearned here is several years ago, I was a teacher in Hungary. And before going, I thought there would be this, like, incredible thing because I was going as a missionary. Like, that was what I thought. And there was a day where I was taking out the trash of my house. And I was standing on this street, and, like, in my head, I saw a map of Hungary, and I saw a little dot where I was. And I was like, you know what? Like, missionary work is taking out the trash. And that's exactly what it is in Mexico. I was there for 8 days. I am here for 300, if I did the math correct. I'm not a math teacher. 357 days, I'm here. And so what am I going to do here? Like, how am I going to take what I learned in Mexico? How am I going to follow Jesus every day and bring others along with me? And so that was the big takeaway for me, is that incredible things are happening there. But while I'm here, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to follow Jesus here? So I'm excited for you guys to get to hear all of their stories. So whoever would like to come up next.
Thank you. Sorry. As I was praying about what to do. As I was praying about what to do, it just came to mind of all the big changes we saw from going last year to this year. Well, first off, was interesting on the physical side. There was a tiny little space reserved that would be a dentist, just a little under area. Now, it's still not a dentist, but there's actually framing, there's structure. We've got all the electricity in, we got the big pumps and the electronics. They're making great progress. They've started a breakfast program, which is really cool to see. It's really small, just a couple of people in their trailer, but they're feeding kids every morning with nutritious new breakfast. That was really cool. And it was just incredible to see how much they're growing, how much they're pouring into the community. They see a need, they pray about it, and they go. Simple as that. The youth group, wow, they've grown significantly in numbers, they've grown in size, and a little girl who was just celebrating her 15th birthday last year, could barely only play one song on the guitar, and she was good at it, is now the leader of a whole band, and they go out and just to the community and had a big youth party. They were the ones hosting that and doing worship for the whole community. It was really cool. Casa de Luz itself was, I don't know how many kids last year, about 50-ish, and now they've got almost 100 kids, all pulled out of dangerous situations into safety. But that's where the biggest change was. There was a little girl, and I did have a picture of her last year, but it wasn't going to work to show that. But she was super stern looking, grim. I don't know. She never smiled, never had much emotion, save once, and she had wrapped me in toilet paper, and she gave me a look to make me feel sympathetic for Christmas presents when she dove in to unwrap me. But either way, other than that, she never really showed emotion. But this year, and again, there's a picture of her piling in with her little best friend, just attacking poor Cash in the chicken costume. But just the seeing from so shy and reserved to smiling, happy, and playful, just in 1 year, complete 180 turn. And there were several other kids who I might not have seen as clearly, but the improvement in the kids was incredible, just from last year to this year. It was really cool to see. And again, just how willing to serve they were and find whatever needed to be done and do it.
Stand on this side. I went to Mexico last year as well, so this is my second time going. And one thing that I did when we prayed over the kids on Thursday, there was this girl. Now, nobody really hung out around her. You know, she was kind of by herself most of the time. So I sat near her and kind of just interacted with her a lot. And during prayer, I held hands with her, with the group, and it was really impactful. Also, during prayer circle, Also during prayer circle, for seeing the youth all like, go to each other and help each other and pray for each other. That was very impactful. Also, thanks for donating to me last year and this year, because I was worried about the money a lot each year.
So I also went to Mexico last year, and both times have been very impactful. It's just a great trip. So not only just going to like another community, another country, it's really impactful, but seeing like the spiritual side and the hunger for God in a rougher country that maybe doesn't have as much is really impacting. One of the things that I loved about the trip was just praying for people and seeing the heart of prayer and worship in the community down in Mexico. It was like most of I would say pretty much all the Christians were not just sitting there in the service, but they would go up, like, get prayer, raise their hands in worship, and just go to God and just talk to Him. And I feel like a lot of them not have to be that way, but they can't just choose to say they believe in God, but don't do anything about it, because a lot of them in rougher situations have to trust God like 100% with their finances, with their health, with their family. So we went to go pray. We went to a church service on Thursday because a lot of people work on the weekends because that's when a lot of tourists come in. So their main service is like on Thursday. And a verse that came to mind while we were getting ready and preparing to pray for people was Matthew 6:33. And it says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So I would just like, these people really live by this verse because they just go, some haven't eaten 3 meals a day, and they just pray to God and like, please just come bless my family, come provide for me. And they just have faith, and God moves in the community because they have that faith. So when we went and prayed for people, like Dad said last week, I don't know how many of y'all were here, but he said the language barrier made it easier for us to pray. And it really did, because it was just like you're praying for these people, and they don't know what you're saying because they all speak Spanish, so you're just praying in English, and they're all like, yes, yes, but they don't know what we're saying. But it's just like spirit to spirit, just communication. We're just praying for them. It's so much easier just to speak life over them and just pray for them. Another one of the highlights that I had is there's this coffee shop named K47. It was like funded by Casa de Luz. It was one of their like business sides to help raise some money. And me and a couple of guys from Canada went down there to get a coffee. And we saw 2 girls from the kids ministry trying to play jump rope. So they tied one end to a fence, and one was swinging it while the other one tried to jump. So we went out there and we played jump rope with them. But that time just really like impacted me. And it's just because like the love that we get to show to the kids and that they get to show back to us, which is so impactful. We're talking about the whole week just like showing our love to the kids because we don't speak Spanish. That's one of the best ways to communicate them, just to show our love. And that just, it was really cool just to be able to hang out with them and show the love. So when I was looking at verses for like showing God's love, I came up on 1 John 4:7 and 8. And that says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love." So that just really like embodied what we were trying to do and show love to the community. And like others were saying, the youth was amazing. There was so much love in the youth program. It would just, they all been through really hard situations. So going to that like youth program that they had and getting through those rough situations and rough times with each other, they really like grew a strong bond together, especially with God in the midst of everything, just growing together and learning about God. And their youth pastor is amazing. They were really hungry, and it was so cool to see how many of them there were, especially from last year, and just going to God, praying. Some of them were more shy too, like the ones that just came into the youth program, gone through harder things. But then some, like Wes mentioned, I think, Kayla, last year we threw her quinceañera party, but she like is leading a worship team. She's like stepping out, playing guitar. She's really just following God and chasing him. And then one of the last things that impacted me a lot was just working like all day. We woke up early in the morning, cooked breakfast, worked all the way through the day. Like they said, Mike will find something for us to do, no matter what it is. And then we got back, and we all sat around the campfire, probably around 8, and we just talked like not highlights, but like just went over that day and how it impacted us. And that was just something that I didn't see a lot or didn't feel a lot, because here I like sleep until 11, play some video games. But just working all day and for a direct purpose, like helping the kids or building a house that someone's going to live in, it just was really impactful. So a verse that I saw, I was reading Galatians, and Galatians 6:9, and it says, "Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." And that's another verse that just stuck out to me, because I was like, that's what our group did. We just worked like 24/7. We're just working. Everyone was so tired. But with that goal of like sharing the kingdom of God, it was easy to just keep on working. And with all our group of people, we're friends too. We went last year together. So just working with that love of God with us, and just the goal of seeing his kingdom come, made it a lot easier. And the last thing I'll say is Casa de Luz. Overall, what it means is house of light. And that's really what they are in the community. When last year, like they said, there was like 50 kids in Casa de Luz, and now it's almost doubled. There's a verse, Psalm 107:41, that says, "But he lifted the needy out of their affliction and increased their families like flocks." And that's really what the people have done for the community, and that we've done with the community, is just grow with them and help them overcome all their problems with God. And I don't know how many of y'all know what Casa de Luz is, but it takes like single mothers that have kids in very rough situations, and it's like a kids program. That's what the main thing is. So the mothers can go find a job, and Casa de Luz feeds the kids, and just watches over them. So overall, the trip was great. Just working, again, like I said, from sunup to sundown, just for God, was really impacting. Coming back home, it was weird the first couple of days, a week, because like I got home, it was late at night, probably like 10:30, and I was like, phew, I need to go lay down on my bed. So I got my phone, I went to just go lay down on my bed and just do just random stuff, like, I don't know, play random games on my phone, just like unwind. But then I was like, this feels like not right to do, because we just went working all day and then like doing worship at night, and I'm just here sitting on my bed just playing on my phone. But it was just such an eye-opening trip to see how good we have it here in the U.S. and in Canada, and just don't take it for granted, all the things that we have.
Good morning. So, like I think everyone else, this was my second time going on this trip and going to Casa de Luz. And I can honestly say that Primo Tapia, where we go, is one of my favorite places in the world. It is obviously very different from where we live here, but when I'm down there, there's nowhere that I'd rather be. And it was really cool this year, as many others have said, to be able to see some of the same kids and some of the same people that we saw last year, and then see their growth from this year. Because there were kids last year who you could tell were new to Casa de Luz. Maybe they just came in the winter before or a couple months ago. And they were really hesitant to open up. Again, just always looked kind of mad, didn't really want to talk to you. And then we came back this year and were able to see those same kids, and they were constantly talking with their friends, smiling, laughing, and playing games. And you could visibly see the change that being at Casa de Luz has made in their lives, in the way that the love of God has transformed them. In Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest in your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And Casa de Luz makes this a possibility for families who wouldn't be able to otherwise. They bring them to God and they find comfort. And not just the kids, but the parents and the teens too. As some others have mentioned, Casa de Luz started this program called La Ola for the youth. So kids who age out of Casa de Luz when they're starting middle school can go to this program, but they also let teenagers just from the community come whenever they need. People can bring friends that know that they need the love of God, even if they didn't start in Casa de Luz. In the past 2 years, we've been able to spend a lot of time with the youth group, playing games, doing work projects with them, and getting to know them. But especially, as they've mentioned, this one girl named Kayla. And last year, we were able to help throw her a surprise quinceañera, which was the first birthday party or anything to celebrate her that she'd had in 15 years of life. And this year, she came over one night to share her testimony with us, and then at the end, led us in worship. And then we also got to see her lead worship at the youth party on the Saturday afternoon. And as some had mentioned last year, she had just started learning guitar, could play one song, and did it well, but was definitely a little nervous. And this year, we could just see the way that her confidence had bloomed. She had started the La Ola Youth Band, organized all of their practices, and was just way more confident in herself. She wasn't scared to get up and sing for us, but did it gladly. And I believe she only started coming to La Ola 2 or 3 years ago, right before she started high school in the midst of her parents' separation. And La Ola provided a safe and stable place for her to find community and learn who God really is, because she didn't grow up in the church. And you can really see, especially from last year to this year, how being there has changed her life, even at 16 years old. And I think it's hard to tell sometimes during the week how much of an impact we can really make on the kids, because again, we're only there for a week. We don't speak the same language as them. But this year, on the last morning, that Thursday morning, we were over at the Kids Center and working, and we did this craft with them that involved, they had this paper cup that they could decorate however they like. Some of them did different patterns or their favorite color or whatever. But I'm walking around and trying to help them, and I noticed that one older boy has chosen to write Dios me amo as his only decoration on the cup. God loves me. That was his takeaway from that week, that God loves him, and that was how he wanted to decorate his cup. And in that moment, I could see that those kids understood. Even if they don't speak the same language, even though we're not with them for a while, they could tell what we were trying to teach them, and they could feel God's love from us. And I think that if we can make that impact on them in a week, how much more of an impact are these teachers making that are working with them every single day and every day, trying to show them how much God loves them and how special they are in God's eyes. Casa de Luz is truly changing people's lives and transforming Primo Tapia, and I'm so thankful I've been able to be there and experience it and help in a small way. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adalea. This was also my second trip to Casa de Luz. So I think other people mentioned in the morning we had preschool VBS. Well, most of the guys did like work projects. There was that one like slow-mo shot of somebody like jumping into the ground. I did not have to do that. I worked with the kids in the morning. And then we all led VBS in the afternoon. I got the opportunity to kind of teach the kids for the preschool VBS. There wasn't a main adult, I guess you could say. We were just we had a team that would go over in the morning, and then we were kind of just let loose, and then we had our translator with us. So that was a little scary sometimes, because anyone who works with kids knows that it can be hard to get a bunch of little kids under control, and then especially when you don't speak the language either. But it ended up going really well. I got to teach one day, and I kind of want to share a little bit about what I taught the kids, because it was really impactful for me. The whole week, including the afternoon VBS, we were teaching them about Joshua and his life story and about how Joshua was brave. And the main memory verse we had for them was 2 Timothy 1:7, which is, "The Lord does not give you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind." And every day we had a theme. So one was love, the next day was power, and the last day was a sound mind, which is what I taught. So the takeaway of what I taught them was that fear lies and it alters your reality, but God's truth guides you and brings you clarity. And it was not as big words as that because they were little kids, but that was the main gist. So I got to do some really fun object lessons with them, so I'm going to share some of those. One, we had 2 Sprite bottles, and also, side note, while I was there, I drank 14 Cokes because they were just so good. But you drank a lot too. Anyways, so we brought 2 Sprite bottles from the compound with us to the children's center, and Blaine, he was one of my helpers for that day. We were walking up to the children's center, and I was like, "Blaine, you have to hurry, chug the Sprite down, chug the Sprite down." So he chugged the Sprite, we filled it up with water, and then we had a Sprite bottle, and I had one of the kids come up and try and figure out the difference of what was the real Sprite and what was the water. And all the kids were loving it. He was like, "I can't tell, this is really hard." He was telling me all these different reasons why he thought, and then he smelled them, he still couldn't tell. So the overall thing was you can't rely on your flesh to know the truth. You can't rely on your senses, your eyes, your smell. The Lord knows what's true because it's really hard for us to tell. That one was a really fun object lesson. The kids loved that. And then we did volleyball, one with a wubble bubble, I think that's what it's called, and a regular volleyball. And Sydney and Blaine were doing volleyball with the wubble bubble and dropping it and throwing it all around. They couldn't catch it, and the kids were booing them and laughing. It was so fun. And then the volleyball, obviously, they could play with it. And that whole thing was fear is unpredictable and fear is unstable, but with God, it's stable and you can accomplish anything, play volleyball. So that was obviously, and then we taught the actual lesson, but those were just some of the little fun things I got to do with the kids that they enjoyed. And after I taught the lesson, I was really encouraged because I felt that they fully understood, they really grasped what I was teaching. And to end it off before we went into games and crafts, I passed out stickers to all of them, and I had them write their fears on the sticker. And some of them were really little, so they just drew their fears. And some of them were funny, one of them was a cockroach, and I was like, "That's scary, I get that." And then some of them were more serious, some of them put their parents, some of them put the future. One of them put La Chancla, I thought that was pretty good. But he came up to me in a joking way. He was laughing about it, which is your sandal, if anybody doesn't know. Yeah, it would be the equivalent of us being the Switch. But anyways, so the kids, so then I had them, after they drew their fears or wrote their fears, they peeled off the sticker, and we had these big Jesus posters. Well, we just wrote Jesus on it. We wrote Jesus on it. And they came up and stuck their sticker of fear onto the poster. And then we all prayed over it. Well, I did, and it was translated. But I was expecting them to kind of just, they were little kids. I was expecting them to just kind of close their eyes and move on to the game. But they all, really understood what was going on. They all started praying. They all started, putting their hands on the posters and, praying over their fears. And it was just so encouraging. They all started praying out loud along with me in my prayer. And that was just really encouraging because prior to all we had taught, sometimes you're are they getting this through the translation? I can't really tell, but they answered all my questions about the story. They were praying, and they really understood and believed that the peace was for them and believed that the freedom was for them. They were fully surrendering their fears to the Lord. That was amazing to see. As someone who's going to be a teacher, I loved that whole day. It was so exciting for me. But also just being able to impart in them that they can be brave, like Joshua was brave, and that they have power and authority over their fears. So that was probably one of my favorite days out of the whole trip. But overall, when I did not know that video was playing, and I was sitting there and I was like, "Oh, there's Ari, oh, there's Blaine, oh, I miss them so much." I was getting sad sitting over there, because that's also my second thing I wanted to talk about. was just the team. We got really close with them last summer, and then this summer as well. I just love them all so much. I had a great time with them. It's because everybody was just so willing to serve. They were willing to walk in the Holy Spirit even when it's uncomfortable. They were willing to walk in obedience for things that were scary. There are many, many examples throughout the entire week that I could share, but Thursday night at church was kind of the culmination of all of it. And we got to be the ministry team for the congregation. So we got to pray over the congregation. We got to pray over each other, praying for like breakthrough. That was a really amazing time because I think all of us had like a really amazing encounter with God that night. And there's one last thing I want to share. As we were praying over all the people at the altar. We were all worshiping. We worshiped like probably an hour after the service was done. It was just a very sweet night in the Lord's presence. But I went to pray over one of my friends from the Canadian youth group, and he's deaf in his left ear. And he was there last summer, and I knew him pretty well, so I had known this about him. Usually I go to like the other side to talk to him, but I came over to pray over him, and I didn't even think about it, and I prayed into his deaf ear. And then we all moved on. We kept on worshiping, praying over people. And during the campfire, he came up to me, and he was like, Adalea, you prayed into my deaf ear. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. I forgot about that. And he was like, no, like everything else, all the worship, all the prayer went silent, and I heard your prayer through my ear. He was like, I heard every single thing you said. And his ear was not like continued healed after that. But I thought that was just a really cool moment of like, you know, it was like it was our very last night together. We were all praying over each other. I prayed over a bunch of the other kids too. And I thought that was just a really sweet moment of all of us kind of lifting each other up. And that was like some really cool fruit at the end of the week. But yeah, I had an amazing time. I miss everybody. I loved the kids that I got to work with. So yeah, thank you.
Suppose I do need this. So when I was thinking about what to share, one big thing stood out to me. It was a question that was asked, and that was simply, what are we bringing home? As Ms. Audrey pointed out, this is not used to holding a mic. I'm used to being on the other end, wishing people would hold their mic like this. But Ms. Audrey pointed out, this is a 8-day trip out of a 360 or 50 whatever day long year, and is question of what are we bringing home. It's easy to see what we left behind. We stuccoed a wall, we hand out hampers, we play with the kids, and it's so heartening, whatnot, or encouraging to look at all the experiences and all, but to then think about what do we bring home, and just how did we grow and how do we continue growing. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, but we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory. And that image, of course, we're all being transformed into is the Jesus. As has been taught here many times, we're called to be imiters of the Lord, which is a action and not a description. We're supposed to become more like the Lord. And what was very encouraging to me was at the start, we were all asked, or Pastor Mike had us all, or had a bunch of pictures laid out on a pool table, and we all picked out 2 pictures. One represented where we were, one represented where we were going to, or where we wanted to be. And then at the end of the week, he had us sit down with pen and paper all in a circle and just be quiet and write down what steps we took. Now, because, again, it was a very fast-paced week, constantly working, and it was clear to see many steps. I was not expecting to write down a whole bunch, and then I look at the end, and it's like my paper's almost completely full of steps I took, and that was very encouraging. And it's, some of those things were personal, like for me, prayer. When I pray out loud, I like to know where I'm going and what I'm going to say. That way I don't wind up forgetting what I'm talking about and repeat myself, and then there's an awkward pause. I'm trying to gather my thoughts, and sometimes I gather them, sometimes I simply say, in Jesus' name, amen. But there, again, language barrier helps because they don't know what I'm saying. But it was very encouraging to not try to go, okay, this is what I'm going to pray, whatnot, but to just say, okay, Lord, I'm praying, guide my spirit, and to pray out of that spirit, or follow in the spirit of the Lord, and that was cool. And then, but there are 3 kind of areas of growth that
I think we all went through, everyone who went, and it was talked about, and it was very encouraging. I'm going to share that. First one was dreams. And not the dreams where you're sleeping at night and what those dreams, but rather the dreams the Lord puts in your heart and say, that's what I want to go, that's what I want to do. Like for me, I want to be a teacher. That's my dream. I want to teach. I want to ideally teach history, but also to share the love of the Lord with kids. And that dream might change as I get older and I might do something else, but the Lord can't steer a boat that's sitting still. You have to go after what the Lord has put in your heart. You have to move and make progress, and you can't just sit there and go, all right, Lord, I'm here. Come meet me. You have to actively pursue. And again, I'm mentioning Kayla again, as she talked about, but when she came last year, she, again, knew only one song, didn't really know a whole lot. And then in the year where we were gone, she started playing songs, started learning more and more, and then got her friends together, and they started playing songs and started a full-on band. And that band was then able to minister to a whole group of youth at a youth party. And all that started because she followed her dream. And she's still following her dream, and I'm very encouraged to see what next year looks like and what they've done, band and all that. The other thing it was seeing people. It's very easy to see people as how they present themselves on the morning. You're like, good morning, how are you? I'm good, whatever, thank you for asking, how are you? Whatever. Just simple greetings. It's a whole other thing to get to know the people and to see that. And it takes a lot more effort and energy, but it's so worth it because once you know the people, once you can see their need, then you can meet the need. Then you can bring Jesus to them and show them how the Lord can meet their need. Example of that was the hampers. We got the opportunity, we packed all the hampers, and then we went where we were told, and we handed out hampers, and we prayed over people, and these hampers contain about 2 weeks' worth of food, which is a very big deal down there. And so that was a very good opportunity for us, but none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for the people who went out into the community, who saw the people who are in need, who met them, and then learned, okay, these people need hampers, let's give them this week, and next week we'll give these hampers out to these ones, whatnot, as the groups come in. And that we need to see the people in order to see the need to see the hampers. And then last thing, it's simple, but it's so easy to not do, and that was taking time for the Lord. Again, it was a very fast-paced week. Most breaks were like, we had 30 minutes, an hour or something, and most were spent with hanging out with people. And I found that if I was going to actually have time to read my Bible and to focus on the Lord, I had to schedule it. Sometimes that meant having to get up early, unpleasant. Sometimes that meant having to go to bed early and not have to say goodnight to friends and go to bed, to find time just to be alone with the Lord. And then I get back here and I have so much more time. And I feel like I spend even less time with the Lord. And it's just because I don't have to schedule it. So it's easy to go, I'll read my Bible later. I'll read my Bible later. I go to bed. I didn't read my Bible. Good thing it's sitting right next to my bed for that reason. And we need to take the time to be with the Lord. And the question I found myself asking so much when I'm on my phone, distracted, or on a computer, why do I decide that I want to spend more time chasing things that are empty than chasing the Lord, which is full in life? And it's a very hard question. It's a simple answer, like, yes, chase the Lord. To carry it out, that's another thing that takes a lot more discipline and a lot more time, but when you do, it's so encouraging to feed your soul and to be filled in life and not feel empty, distracted, like sitting on my phone, and it's so empty and compared to what the Lord has in life. And that week was awesome because that's all we were doing. We were feeding our souls constantly and then pouring out of that place of a very fed soul. And that's all I have. Okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to let that be that. I'm just going to show one quick video from missionaries that we support down there. Did you guys notice the same thing I noticed, that all these teens know how to preach? Isn't that cool? I lost my cursor. Hey, does someone want to come up here and find my cursor? Oh, it's over here? Is that where it is? Okay. Oh, there it is. Yes, I'm back. Okay. Let me do this. So basically, and then we're just going to quickly, and I'll be 2 seconds, and then if someone wants to, is Riley up here or is she downstairs? Yeah, if you don't mind getting Riley and for her baptism there. So just really quick to say that Casa de Luz, just so you know, is when I first started working with it, just had the kids program. And I was there, I think, the first time in 2015, 2014, somewhere in there. They just had the kids program. And one of the things that we noticed, you'll notice a lot of these kids, well, not in that picture, in the slides that were going, were well dressed, which is so thankful. There were so many times, the first couple of trips were so hard for me because you would see kids coming into the program that would be wearing the same clothes day after day after day after day. And at that point, they didn't have the youth program yet. And so once they graduated from the youth program, the funding stopped. And so they would be youth with no funding. And so they would be wearing the same clothes. And so I asked one of the directors, these guys were directors at the time, Tony and Aaron behind me, who we support. And I would ask them, I said, hey, do these kids have clothes? And she would, tears in her eyes, said that we can't buy them. We don't have enough finances yet. Like we're focusing on the kids. And she said, that is the only pair of clothes this kid has. Right? And so I was with a couple guys in New Jersey, and we're like, well, forget that. And I said, which kids need clothes? Which kids only have one pair? That's what I said, like literally, one shirt, one jean that they wear every single day, right? Which kid only has one? And she gave us a list of kids that only had one, like that was it. Like, and I was just shocked. And so we went to the store, and we bought clothes for all these kids that only had one pair. And now you come back, and these kids are clothed because the ministry has expanded. So La Hermosa Church is with Pastor Daniel. I'm not going to repeat that too much for me to talk about him. But he started a ministry called Casa de Luz in the building that became an orphanage for him. A guy took him in, and that building became an orphanage. When he grew up, the man died. It got taken over by drug lords and became a drug den. Well, his wife, as bold as she was, would go into that building and pray over that building and say that this building's been stolen. It's going to produce life and light once again. And long and behold, they got it. And that yellow building that you saw on the rotating, that was Casa de Luz. That was Pastor Daniel's first orphanage. It's right by the church. And so now Casa de Luz, La Hermosa Church has the Casa de Luz ministry. Now they have the youth group ministry, which is new. And they also, since I've been there, have started a separate ministry, which is an orphanage that is run. The state is more involved in that because it's kids without any parents at all. And so now they have that. And then the picture, there's a picture of Wesley looking at a trailer up there, if you saw it, and that is a thing they just built to now feed a breakfast program. So now they have the kids thing, the youth thing, which you can now sponsor youth, which is why all these youth have multiple clothes, which is so awesome. So you can sponsor kids. They have 30 new kids on the website now that they just came in there. They have a lot more babies, which is, you saw those pictures of them rocking babies. They couldn't put the babies to sleep, and so some of our girls would literally go in there and help rock babies. And one of them looked like a mob boss. That little kid that I was with, he would lean forward on his thing, and I'm like, man, you're like piercing into my soul. Right? He was new, cute as ever, but they would have to rock these babies, and it was such a beautiful ministry. So Casa de Luz has really, really expanded, which has been so cool to see, and they make such an impact in their community, and we get to be a part of that. So I want to share something real quick. These two people right here are Tony and Aaron. They used to be the directors of Casa de Luz, and I met them 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and we've been really good friends with them. This last year, they told me, actually last year when we were at Casa de Luz, that the Lord was calling them out, and that they were called, that they felt the Lord was calling to lead them through another branch of La Hermosa Church to minister to the part of Mexico that has less than 2% Christians in it. So they are raising up, and you're going to see a video here, schools where they go to, and they also bring pastors in that area, and they're training and equipping pastors to go into that area and help pastors that have no money, no finances, support them to help them run churches and give them the proper schooling that's needed. They have had universities in the U.S. that have come alongside them and said, obviously, we can't give them degrees because you need to pay for degrees, right? Degrees are money, unfortunately. But they're giving them certificates of completion. So they're going to have certificates from accredited universities in the U.S., and they're just being trained, and these pastors are so excited. Hey, Cody, can you mute me for a second? And then put me a thumbs up when I'm not here. Mute me on live stream, and just give me a thumbs up when I'm muted. We're going to But they're an incredibly precious couple, and here's just a thank you video from them. So, I wonder how we can get. It's not going. But hold on. Let me go old school here.
Aaron, and we are coming to you from Primo Tapia, Baja California, Mexico, where we have lived for the last 14 years
Can you hear
and
that?
served. And we are just so excited to have you guys walking this journey with us. We want to thank you for all your support, for all your love, for all your prayers. We thank Pastor Jeremy and Rachel, and we just want to bless you guys. And my wife want to share a little story of what God's doing here.
We are so excited about what the Lord is doing. Just as Tony mentioned, for the last 14 years, we have been the managing directors of Casa de Luz, and recently God has called us into a new season, and that season involves raising up and empowering and equipping leaders, pastors, missionaries, church planters, here local, among them Mexican church. And so what we are doing is we are founding the Ebenezer Institute of Ministry Formation. We're just in the process right now of interviewing and accepting students for our first cohort, which is going to launch this September. We're taking a huge step of faith to launch this cohort. And we just wanted to share you just a quick little interview. We literally just came out of an interview with a lady named Mariel. She has a church in her home. She is already pastoring 50 people that gather with her in her home. And she told us that when she saw the promo video and information on Facebook that we were putting out there about Ebenezer Institute and the first cohort, she said, this is what I've been praying for. This is what I've been waiting for. She said, I've always dreamed of being able to go to a Bible college because she's never received even a day of training in her life. And she is currently pastoring 50 people. We are so excited about what the Lord is doing. We said, of course, we can't wait to have you with us in our first cohort, and we believe that she is going to be first of many.
And she's bringing another woman from
She's
our church.
also bringing another leader with her, so we're going to have 2 leaders from her church that are going to be with us in the first cohort. We are very, very expectant about what the Lord is going to do, and we want to thank you for partnering with us, for encouraging us, for loving us, and we're excited to share even more updates in the coming weeks and months about what the Lord does here in Baja as he raises up leaders to expand his kingdom here in Mexico and beyond.
So that's just a little update from them, and we support them as a church. Missionaries support them as well, and so we were able to come alongside and help them, which is just awesome. Like, don't you love that? There's people crying out for God in these areas that are unchurched, and they're gathering in this lady's home. This is one they just met this week, and she's like, I need to be taught. And we're helping couples go in there and train pastors for that. Isn't that awesome? Like, so thank you, because as a church, we're giving to them. Like, that's one of the many ministries we give to. And I'm just so thankful, as Jack said many times, that we can give to those types of ministries and just be a difference. So God bless you. We're going to call it up, the youth back up for the last song. If Riley wants to, she'll be back there with the ladies. I'm going to go in the tank, and we are going to just celebrate a baptism. As I said, she received Jesus probably about, I forget when, but probably about a month ago. And I asked Bart, I said, Bart, is Riley still wanting to get baptized on Sunday? And I think you said she's been asking every day, right? Yes, every day. So she's ready. So we're going to go do that. And then once the baptism is done,